Hi everybody, welcome back to another tier list video. So as you guys know, I have this tradition on my channel where after a set amount of videos on a certain anime, I like to cap it all off with a tier list. Now, the last 3 videos have been Jujutsu Kaisen, so naturally, this all culminates in the tier list you see before you, but with a little twist this time. So guys, for the first time ever on this channel, we actually have a guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? Broken Ronin here. I don't know if you guys have heard of me before, but I will be on here kind of ranking these characters with him here. We're just going to be kind of like having a little bit of a discussion, I'd assume, on these characters and kind of placing them where we'd put our favorite or preferred characters on the list.
All right.
Happy to be here, by the way.
I'm happy that you're here too. So let's get started. They're already starting us off pretty strongly with Mahito, and I don't know about you, but I think he's okay.
You think you have him at okay?
Yeah.
So I have a quick question real quick. So how do you want to, like, when we have a disagreement on this, like on how do you want to rank these characters? Because I have Mahito really high, like he's in my top 5 characters. Yeah. I would have him like anywhere from elite to GOAT range, right? So how would you want to handle that disparity of like 2 or 3 tiers?
I want to make it like an argument where we try to convince each other. Worst case is that we just average it out to like good or great.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so here's my take. I think that Mahito is like wholly unsatisfying as a character because on one hand, all the like heinous like shit he does seems to be intentionally heinous, and I know that sounds dumb, but in a way that's like he's making a plan to make it like extra evil to get a specific reaction. So when he did the whole thing with Junpei in that arc, his intention was to like give Yuji a villain that he hated so much he would like switch with Sukuna as like the only way to defeat him, right? On one hand, yeah, it makes him really calculating, but then on the other hand, he's like also genuinely evil to a weird extent where when he is fighting Yuji, he's antagonizing him further, but at this point he's like, yeah, I want to kill Yuji after they sealed Gojo. So to me, I don't know how to feel about him because he seems to have a contradictory
ideology
goals.
or whatever.
Ideology, yeah.
So a lot of the things that you mentioned for Mahito, I actually find like very, not necessarily endearing, because like he is like a scumbag. Like I don't think anybody would deny that, like from our perspective, he just sucks, right? He always is antagonizing Yuji. He's always like antagonizing these characters, but like I don't knock him for that because like at the end of the day, he is a villain. He's an antagonist. He's meant to be the sort of like I think yin to Yuji's yang, or maybe reverse that depending on which one is supposed to be the quote-unquote bad one. But in any case, Mahito kind of antagonizing and sort of being this other half to Yuji is something that I find extremely interesting. And you know, without getting into manga spoilers yet, because I know we can kind of talk about the manga in more detail as we get to the manga only characters, I'll just say Mahito creating Yuji's development to the kind of like the climax of the Shibuya incident arc, and really just forming Yuji and continuously kind of acting as this other half, this other side of the coin to Yuji's existence, if you will, always pushing Yuji, and not necessarily in an encouraging and positive way, but we see that a lot of Yuji's like growth stems from wanting to kill Mahito for what he did and wanting to get strong enough to beat him. And I really like that they kind of almost grow alongside each other. We see that as Yuji grows, he develops Black Flash and things like that. We see in the manga, Mahito's domain expansion improves and things like that. And we just see over and over and over that they're meant to kind of parallel each other throughout the series. And it comes to a climax towards the end of Shibuya, which I won't spoil, but I'll just say very simply that I feel like Mahito is the best antagonist, arguably like top 1 or 2 in Jujutsu Kaisen, and he's also like the perfect character to be like pitted against Yuji.
Okay, so here's where I gotta push back a little bit. I understand that from like a thematic story perspective, but on the other hand, you can argue that Mahito's cruelty and part of the reason for Yuji's development is to be strong enough to kill Mahito, but you can argue that Sukuna does much of the same, and actually you could argue it's a little bit worse with Sukuna, because like, whereas Mahito killed, let's say, let's include all those little like tiny humans that he transfigured, he probably killed, what, 100 people max? Whereas Sukuna is just like, he was out for 15 minutes and he went on like a small rampage, you know? And it Yuji was like, he was done after he saw what Sukuna did in Shibuya. In my opinion, it was like a much stronger moment than the thing with Mahito.
Well, if you remember, right, it's kind of hard being vague about it, but if you remember, right, after Sukuna does that and rampages, Yuji's like, he throws up, right, he's sick, but he's still able to fight. It's not until Mahito does, like, you know, does two certain very disgusting acts, two very like reprehensible ones. He basically hurts Yuji's resolve a little bit, right? And after he does these two things, including these two characters, Yuji literally doesn't have the resolve to fight anymore until you know, Todo shows up or whatever, right? Like he's curled up in a ball and he's just unable to move. Like Sukuna never did that to him. No really other antagonist in the series ever made Yuji just completely give up, to the extent of like just curling up in a ball and crying and just getting like completely bodied the way he did, right? I feel like, yeah, Yuji hates Sukuna. That much is obvious. Was never really the driving force for Yuji to get that much stronger. We see versus like Hanami, when Yuji wants to perform Black Flash, he doesn't think of Sukuna. When he gets angry, he thinks of Mahito, right? And then he messes up Black Flash and has to clear his mind of that, right? We see that after the Mahito fight, Yuji, like, obviously this is an incorrect statement, which I think we can get into when we talk about Yuji, but he's like, because of what happened to Mahito, he's like, I'll never lose again, right? Like I won't lose to anybody else until I beat him, right? And these are all like massive motivating factors towards Yuji's growth, and something that we see, like, Sukuna like definitely is disgusting and a curse and a lot of these things, and makes his life miserable, right? But Mahito, I feel like, is a much better parallel to Yuji in many ways than Sukuna ever is, and Sukuna's not really even intended to be necessarily that type of parallel to Yuji's character, in my opinion. Sukuna more pairs with characters like Gojo and like Megumi, and we can talk about that when we get into them.
I agree with you on the bit about them helping each other grow, right? I'm willing to concede that, but I also want to mention that only goes up until like the very end, where after Yuji awakens, or whatever you want to call it, there's that visual of him like hunting Mahito like a animal in the woods. I think that's when parallel development stops. So you can make a half argument that Yuji never reached completion, in that pretty much after Mahito was defeated, Kenjaku just swallowed him up. Like, I'm just throwing out spoilers at this point. But Yuji wasn't exactly positively changed because of that fight. You know, later down the line in the Hakari chapters, you'll see that Yuji's new ideology is just that he's a cog, and I don't necessarily think that's a positive change.
I wouldn't argue that it's a necessarily positive change, right? I wouldn't necessarily, like, I don't think it is. I think there's some positivities to it. There's some things that it probably helps Yuji as a sorcerer deal with. But overall, I think he's devaluing himself as an individual, which is never really the best thing to do. But Mahito wasn't trying to make Yuji a better person, right? He was trying to kill him and destroy him. I think Mahito, even after his death, imparted his own ideology on Yuji, right? He imparted the fact that, like, yeah, you are me, right? That was Mahito's point. Mahito's point was like, neither of them could really argue that they were in the moral right. This was like a clash of this wasn't just like this simple thing that Yuji could get over, right? And I think that Mahito's impact, even after his demise or death or whatever you want to call it, he's still impacting Yuji over 10 chapters, 20 chapters later, right? Yuji still isn't over that. Mahito's whole thing was getting Yuji to the point where he has to realize that him and Mahito were, for all intents and purposes, you know, two sides of the same coin, right? They had their differences, obviously, but like the same way that Mahito indiscriminately killed human beings, Yuji indiscriminately killed curses, both sentient beings, both beings that like try to live. And Yuji tries to deny that at first, but the only way he's able to beat Mahito is coming to that conclusion and understanding that they are, to some extent, very similar, and that, like, and Yuji just has to discard his previous like misgivings of, like, you know, being very moral and being like the good person. He's like, okay, I now have this purpose and I'm going to exist for this purpose, right? Mahito kind of forced my eyes open to that point, and now Yuji is stuck that way until we see something change him one way or another. And I think as an antagonist, there's not much, like, you can't get much better than imparting your own ideology. And really, Mahito lost the physical battle, but when you look at it from an ideological standpoint, he did force Yuji to change drastically, right? We look at Yuji's just demeanor in Shibuya, and you can tell that he's a lot less happy all the time. He doesn't smile as much. He's a lot more, not necessarily aggressive, but
like
he's
stoic,
just not as
right?
yeah. He's just not as like Yuji like as you see him in the anime, right? We see him slowly but surely change and break down, and I think that was Mahito's entire purpose and point, right? They both kind of, Mahito's full evolution, right, where he actually changed forms, is representative in a physical sense, but Yuji's is represented in a physical sense as well. We see the scar on his face, the scar that Mahito imparted on him will most likely never leave, right? Even after he's been healed, that kind of scar is sort of like a symbol of what Mahito did to him on a mental level. And I think that's really cool for an antagonist to be able to do.
You know what? Just the fact that we've spent, let's say 11 out of the 12 minutes we've been recording so far on Mahito, I do think that's already a big enough argument in and of itself that he's like great.
I mean, I would definitely, yeah. I mean, that's a definitely compromise I can make. Great is fine with me.
Right. I do want to say that I like the idea that Mahito came out of the battle with the ideological victory, in that now that, let's assume Mahito is like fully dead, right? Like whatever Kenjaku absorbs is basically just like food. The only way for Yuji to even beat the spirit of Mahito at this point is just to get over the ideology that was imparted onto him. So it would be something along the lines of, you know, having friends to help you. It's okay to have like moral hang-ups about killing people, you know, stuff like that, I think is what in the end will be the death of Mahito the entire way.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think Mahito still exists in Yuji until whatever like negative effects of his ideology go away, right?
All right, so that was fun. Next one is Eso, I think is his name, right? He was fun. I liked him.
Yeah. I personally say I put him in okay. I think he becomes cooler. Like I think he becomes like in the anime only. He's like cool. He's like interesting, engaging. It kind of has like an emotional thing towards the end after Nobara and Yuji kill him or whatever. But I think it becomes even more impactful when you realize, I guess, real quick spoilers, I guess since we've been going over them, Yuji is related to them. I think that makes it.
Did you read the chapter yesterday?
Oh no! I haven't read anything. I haven't read the most recent chapter. I'm talking about before, like, because Choso is brothers. I haven't seen anything about that. But Choso is brothers with Yuji, and obviously Choso is brothers with Eso and Kechizu. So like Yuji killing them was kind of like this really. It becomes more emotional and kind of like tragic when you realize that Yuji did kill his brothers in that fight.
It's wild to think that they are brothers in that sense, because there's this, I don't know, have you ever seen any of the interviews that Akutami did like for the manga?
Yeah.
So
I have seen them.
Yeah, I remember this one about, you remember when Choso said he was the oldest of 10 siblings? Somebody asked Akutami if we would ever see the other 7 siblings, and Akutami was just like, no, that was that was just a comment.
Oh, okay.
And I think the reason for that is because if you look at it from, what was his name, Kechizu, and up, you can kind of see a small like increase in completion.
Humanity.
Yeah, humanity too. But even in like like actual curse energy like amounts, you can see there's definitely a hierarchy of like perfection there, with Choso being like the pinnacle. And we could also assume Yuji's in this pyramid and he's like the 11th brother, whereas I would put him personally right above Choso right now. And I can understand why the other 7 siblings wouldn't even need to be there, because can you imagine how like awful and like grotesque the first one would be?
Yeah, because Kechizu is, I'm assuming he's decently like maybe in the middle of the pack. And anything below that would just, I would assume, like regress more and more into being more cursed, like, or just having less like kind of consciousness and things like that.
Do you think Eso, because I know with Kechizu they like force fed a random human curse room, do you think they did that with Eso and Choso?
Oh yeah, they did. That's what Kenjaku did. Like that, if you're talking about like how they were created, that's how Kenjaku created all of them. They were spawned like the curse room or whatever.
Yeah, the whole curse room thing is a little like, it's a little confusing to me. I had to like keep rereading it. It was like curse rooms are one thing, but then curse room death paintings are another thing. All right, so Kechizu, I'm gonna put him in ill. Just
Kechizu's fine, I guess. But I do think he's just more regressive of Eso. He doesn't have the same charm as Eso does, and I just don't enjoy his character as much.
So we could add like a new row and make it like, and then ew, and then ew. Okay, cool. So next we have I just had his name off the top of my head, Jijichi or something like that.
Jinichi, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like I don't hesitate to put him in ill just because like I don't hate his character, but there's almost nothing to go off of.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Me too. I put him in who just on principle.
Yeah.
Even his demeanor is pretty one note, because at least what's Obi or something? What's
Ogi? Yeah.
Yeah, Obi. Yeah. Compared to this guy, he has like 10 times the character development, dude. This face is his entire character.
Yeah. Ogi is, I feel like, fine. I don't think he's a particularly good character or anything above that. To me, he's like, I'd probably put him like a step above Kechizu simply because how he impacts Maki's kind of development and things like that. Like he's a trash human being, whatever, right? Everybody kind of knows that. Yeah. But I would say he's impactful for Maki's development, and I think he represents what the Zen'in Clan is and how kind of like arrogant they were or are very self-centered.
Yeah, dude. Compared to him, Nabito was an angel.
They're both pieces of work. So I guess we'll get into them when we get into them. Yeah. But yeah, the Zen'in Clan for the most part is not the nicest clan of people.
You remember that scene where he throws Maki and Mai into that pit of cursed spirits that were like afraid of him, so that's why they weren't just going all in until he left?
Yeah.
This guy made me realize that like 80% of Jujutsu sorcerers are really weak.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was like a supreme, maybe not. Yeah, he was like because the thing he said was like, the reason he wasn't head of the clan is not because he was weaker than Naobito, but because he couldn't create like strong children. So like we can assume he should be in that same tier at least of Naobito. And if that's the case, right, Naobito was like, even though he wasn't able to beat Dagon outside of domain, he was kind of like beating up a special grade curse. Like it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah, and it was because of him and Nabito that I realized, man, Toji really could have killed the entire Zen'in clan in like an afternoon if he really wanted to. Like there was, like, I thought they'd be way stronger than they were. Actually, Maki did basically do it in an afternoon. It took her like an hour to kill like 80% of them.
And I mean, the thing is, the Zen'in clan weren't weak by any means. Like we've seen what Naobito level characters can do, right? They're not weak, but we just know Toji, and I guess we'll get into Maki later, are just different, right? They're just like crazy strong.
They're literally built different.
Yep.
All right, so Mekamaru, I'm gonna put him in good.
And that's fair. Mekamaru is really good.
Yeah, he's all right. This is gonna seem like a very bad takeaway from like the entirety of his character arc, despite how like, I guess, objectively beautiful it was that it made me wonder if Mahito can override a heavenly restriction, because he did like fix Mekamaru, and that's like how
he did.
Yeah. So I wonder, can Mahito just like override Toji's?
Take away. Yeah, that is an interesting kind of discussion to be had, to be honest.
Because I remember seeing this thread with, okay, so you know how Kenjaku has like the brain thing underneath there, and that's like who Kenjaku is? It's not like the meat suit he's wearing.
Yeah.
So I was reading, I think, something on the Reddit that was like, if Kenjaku were to try to take over Toji's body, would he even be able to, or would it be like when that old lady tried to possess her grandson with Toji's soul, and the soul, like Toji's body information that was in his soul took over? So I wonder if
Akutami actually did an interview on that, where he answered that question. Kenjaku chose not to try to attack Toji because while he could take over him, he said it was up in the air whether or not the heavenly restriction would make him like forcefully leave his body. So like, now it's not a straight up yes it wouldn't work or no it wouldn't work, but I feel like Akutami is kind of hinting at the fact that Kenjaku wouldn't pick Toji because of how uncertain it working would be.
Right. And let's assume like the best case or medium case scenario is that like it's like a 50-50 thing where it's like a double consciousness. I don't see Toji having the temperament or patience to execute Kenjaku's 1,000-year-long plan. All right, next we have Ichichi.
Yeah,
I like him. He's all right.
Yeah, he's cool. I mean, there's not much like I would say like depth to him or whatever, but like I think he's fun when he's on screen.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna need water for Yuji. Like, we need to lube up my throat for this one. That's what she said. All right, so I'm gonna put Yuji in Elite. Now, do you want to put him in GOAT, or is this like a fair?
Yeah, I mean, I would have him there. That's fine. I would say Yuji, to me, Yuji and Mahito are in similar places, but we already have Mahito in Great, so I feel like Yuji being here is fine.
And the thing that I like about Yuji is that he's given a purpose that isn't like world saving. He's kind of the opposite of what a chosen one is, in that to save the world he has to die, but like not in a heroic way, but like in a please kill yourself to spare
for the great of humanity.
To spare us yourself. And it's really funny because despite Jujutsu High or whoever makes these decisions reinstating Yuji's execution order, it's not like an unreasonable thing of them to want that, because he is like Sukuna's vessel. And just like going off the shit he did in Shibuya, right? Sukuna, I mean. Like, Yuji's a nice guy, but there is no amount of like kindness that erases like the 200 deaths that Sukuna did in like 5 minutes.
I mean, it's completely fair. Like, the way they're going about it, I definitely think is a little like stupid and corrupt. But like the idea of wanting Sukuna's vessel to hurry up and get dealt with is not one that I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. It makes sense. Like, Sukuna is a very big problem.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put Yuji in Elite. I have no idea how they're gonna save him or kill him. Either way, I want to see what happens to him, because he seems to be drinking the Jujutsu Sorcerer Kool-Aid, taking that mission statement to heart, exercising curses and whatnot, even though like they're the ones that want him dead. But whatever. Next we have Mei. I actually really like Mei, especially.
That's really good. I mean, honestly, I think Mai's a good character. I feel like the more recent chapters developed her a little bit more, and I really liked kind of the wishes she had for Maki and things like that. I know a lot of people don't like Mei because she kind of felt like a little like arrogant or very annoying, but I feel like that's just kind of part of her character. She's meant to be that sort of. She's meant to kind of like highlight maybe some of the flaws Maki had in her decision or whatever, and really just be kind of be a different voice, right? Not everybody has to be like a very likable person in order to be like a good character with a purpose, in my opinion.
Fair. I want to talk about Jogo for 1 second. There's this joke my friend and I made. I actually made him like sit down and watch all of Jujutsu Kaisen with me, and I even like got on Discord with him and I watched and like I supervised him reading the manga to make sure he was actually reading it. And one of the things he said to me that still makes me laugh was, you know, at the end of the Dagon fight where Jogo pops up and everybody's like impressed, they're like, whoa, this cursed spirit's on a whole other level, right? And there was like 3 of them. There was Maki, Nanami, and Nabito. My friend said, this was Jogo's one chance to flex, his one chance to shine, because he is the worst at picking his opponents. Like, absolute awful at it. So
it's so crazy because Jogo is super strong,
right?
But he just fights 2 of the strongest characters in the series.
And
it's like,
and that's not even the most pathetic thing about him. The most pathetic thing about him is that despite these people being in a domain for like a long time and being almost mortally wounded the entire way through, he only killed 1 of them. He killed one of these people that Dagon like pre-marinated for him. That like Jogo is so hilariously pathetic that he couldn't even kill Nanami all the way through. Mahito finished that for him, and then he couldn't kill Maki, which I don't even know how. She was burned up. It's not like she went away unscathed, but she still survived.
It's just because the heavenly restriction, I think, is what
Yuki
said. Yeah, Yuki says. He's like, yeah, like it wasn't your cursed energy resistance, it was like your heavenly restriction durability kept you alive, which is, I guess, cool.
I know, but that was like pre-awakened Maki, which makes Jogo even more pathetic than he already was. But there's something about Jogo that I just love, and I think it's that he brings me so much joy in how pathetic he is. So for me, I'm gonna put him right next to Mahito in like great.
Yeah, I'd say honestly great. I honestly like Jogo. For a multitude of reasons. I think he kind of like not gets done dirty. I think he has a purpose for fighting those types of characters. But like, I mean, by no means I would say he's like a weak character, right? He fights Gojo and Sukuna. Like 99% of the people that fight those characters would end up like Jogo.
Granted,
and he actually
Gojo was fighting him non-lethally because he wanted to like interrogate him, and Sukuna was doing it for fun. So it's not like either of them were like fighting so much as just they wanted something from Jogo.
Still, I feel like when you put into the perspective of like Dagon just like bodied everybody, and then Jogo is considered on another level from him, you can't really say like, oh, Jogo is weak, but he does have bad fight selection, I will say. But yeah, I mean, overall, I like his character.
All right, next is Hanami. I think Hanami's okay. Do you say he or she or they for Hanami?
I just say she because I think she's supposed to be like Mother Earth. I think is like with the kind of like the symbolic, and I think the voice actor was a she as well. So I don't really care. I mean, they, she, it's a curse. So
because in story they reference them as he. So like I'm just gonna say they them for this one. Yeah, I'm not sure. So Hanami's not as interesting as say Mahito or Jogo, but they have this like childlike naivete about them where you kind of enjoy watching them grow in that fight with Yuji and Todo, because Yuji was also growing at that same time. So it was them both like having this opportunity to like for the first time enjoy what they are, because there was nothing about Mahito's confrontation with Yuji that I would consider like enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, Yuji was emotionally distressed all throughout that fight, right?
Right. However, the thing that I like can't stand and I can't really forgive is how much damage they took without like dying, including Gojo's hollow purple. Like, no, dude, you got like 4 black flashes, a walloping from Todo and Yuji, like tag teaming them.
Yeah. And
you cap it off with Gojo's hollow purple, and I still survive. It's just a little too unbelievable to me. And I totally understand if maybe Akutami wanted the audience to have that impression, because when Gojo does kill Hanami, it almost feels spiteful because Hanami like got away from the guy with the 6 eyes. I could take that as like a wounded pride moment.
I mean, yeah, because Gojo even mentions it. He's like, you fought against me 3 times. He's like, and you're still alive. Like, I'm gonna change that, right? He didn't fight against him 3 times, but he's encountered him. That would be the 3rd time. Like at first, Hanami helps Jogo escape. Then Gojo like erases half of his body, but doesn't like hit him straight on. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, yeah, 3rd time's the charm. Like you're not about to live like this 3rd time. Sorry.
Yeah. And I love that the other curses were like, yeah, we're gonna distract him, but Gojo, like he had a beef he needed to settle first. Like it went saving the humans in Shibuya, and then killing Hanami. You can't see it, but I'm doing like a hierarchy thing with my hands.
Yeah, okay.
All right, next is Panda. I love Panda. I think he's great.
Interesting. Panda is, to me, like, okay. I wouldn't put Panda any higher than I put like Hanami or Eso. Like, he's cool. I think he's like fun. He has some pretty funny moments in the series. But I just like him and another character. I think Inumaki are characters that are like cool, but like I never understood so much hype surrounding them when the anime is coming out. They're cool, they're dope characters, they're fun, right? Yeah. But I don't really place Panda much higher than that personally. I don't mind putting him higher though. I'm not opposed to it. That's just my personal take on it.
Well, if you want like an argument for it, like for my reasoning, so Panda is he's way more than he looks in combat and in intelligence. Because Panda's intel gathering and espionage skills are like pretty top notch. I think they're the best in the series. Like if you need info or like to like figure out your opponent, nobody's been doing it as good as Panda the entire time. And even let's say his when he met up with Megumi and Yuji to recruit Hakari, Panda had most of the info. Like they only got so far because of his information and the fact that he has like all these cores, and his relationship with Yaga is all insanely interesting to me. And I can kind of get the argument you're making for Inumaki, because I just personally haven't seen that much of him to like put me over the edge, aside from him helping Kamo and Megumi when Hanami attacked. But Panda's like, he's up there, dude. He's earning his keep. And this is the purely like fanboy thing. I think Gorilla Mode looks sick as fuck, and I can't wait to see his sister, which, by the way, he said bashful older sister, so it makes me think he's like a goat or something. But we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. I am interested to see that, to see Panda's like sister come out. But for intel gathering, I feel like there are better characters that you could bring up. Like Mekamaru, I feel like is really good at that because of how he can deploy his like curse puppets all over the country. I feel like if you're talking intelligence, Megumi is like a better example too. Like being able to figure out Kirara's technique in like 2 minutes.
Okay, but that was okay. I want to talk about that for a second. That should not count as a feat from Megumi, because you have to be like the weirdest like bookworm, like it's
Megumi's consistently like that though, and that's something because like okay, so like he figures out Awasaka's technique in like 2 minutes, right?
Southern Cross or Northern Cross or whatever the fuck it's called, like that's not something
people just know.
Yeah, it's such a weirdly specific thing because it occurred to him, right? For me, right, when I saw like all the teases for her technique, I was like, oh, it has something to do with like magnetism, right? Where it like repels. Do you know that Big Sis Magna from My Hero Academia?
Yeah.
I thought it was like that.
Funny thing is, I know this sounds weird, but people were like, before Megumi figured it out in the chapter, people were theorizing about like the Southern Cross stuff. Like,
what?
I try to send you like on Twitter. Yeah, people were talking about like, I'm guessing it's about a constellation on this. People were figuring out, right? And I was pretty surprised. Granted, they had a little bit more time than Megumi, but like they were able to figure out the basis of Kirara's technique, like without it being explained to them, and I think that was very impressive.
Fine, we'll table this for when we get to Megumi, because it sounds like that's gonna be like the longest one. I hope I have enough battery in my camera.
Yeah. But yeah, Panda's cool. I don't have any problems with him. I just don't think he's like that great by any means, anything like that.
All right, next we have Yuki. I'm gonna put her in okay for now because we haven't really seen much of her, and her allegiances are, it seems, intentionally vague, aside from getting rid of cursed energy, which I gotta say is a very, very fascinating goal to have, because this is my personal theory for how Jujutsu Kaisen ends. Basically, she's the one who wins. Cursed energy is like eradicated from the face of the earth. Humans just no longer produce it, so cursed spirits don't exist, including Sukuna, and that's like how they free Yuji. I like it because it's a very bold outcome if Akutami decides to go down that route, because imagine getting rid of an entire power system in anime, right? Like just imagine if like, have you seen Black Clover?
Yeah.
Imagine if
Asta just erased all magic or something.
Yeah, dude, literally be sent back to the Stone Age.
I think Yuki is an example of, good build up, not executed on that build up yet. A lot of potential. That's how I feel about her.
Yeah, and I want to see her curse technique so bad because she's one of the 4 special grades.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm gonna put her in okay, but like, I got my eye on her.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Nobara. I'm gonna put her in elite next to Yuji.
Nobara above Mahito is interesting.
Yeah.
But I do think Nobara is like really good. So I'm not mad at that. I think her being with Yuji is cool. I'm not really. My thing is I just rank Mahito higher, but I think we already know that. So yeah, that's cool. I don't have any problems with that. I understand that completely.
And I love that both of them are like right above Mahito, because he said that they're both his natural enemy. And I wish that was like, I hope, I'm not throwing it off the table just yet. I hope that it gets explored further down the line in Jujutsu Kaisen, because it shows that there's like more than meets the eye with Nobara's technique.
Oh yeah, for sure. I am very excited for like, I say 4 because I'm pretty sure it's going to be explored more for when that inevitably does come back. Fingers crossed, but I think the vagueness of her exit of the series was it. I think it's intentional, and I think it wouldn't make sense unless there are plans to bring her back. I think what's gonna happen is it's gonna be kind of like what Gojo did, except built up over dozens of chapters, right? Like,
dozens.
These tidbits. whatever, right? I think, I mean, when she leave, like chapter 125 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not dozen. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but like it's been kind of, she's been out of the series for a while now, right? And I think that, you know, like Gojo versus Toji was like, yeah, I understood the core of cursed energy and then gained reverse curse technique. That's why I didn't die, right? And in the Mahito fight, Nobara was mentioning that she needs to feel the core of cursed energy. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I feel that she's going to come back after using reverse curse technique. But that's my little theory, if you will.
Yeah, so you're good with it being on Elite?
Yep, that's cool, man. Cool.
All right, so next one, I got to drink some more water. Oh, my God. Okay. So Gojo, is there even any debate here?
I have him in... Yeah, okay, Goat's fine. Goat's fine.
Is it even worth going into why he's in Goat?
I mean, I think a lot of people probably just get it. He's cool. I mean, especially if you look at like the Star Plasma Vessel arc, great arc for Gojo's development, great arc for him. He's cool. He's powerful. I mean, there's not really much to not like about Gojo, to be honest.
Yeah,
he's definitely one of the best characters in the series, in my opinion.
I do like, because when I like with everybody, with my introduction to Jujutsu Kaisen, it was like anime and then manga. So it never really occurred to me that Gojo was like anything beyond like a really strong, like handsome guy in a blindfold. So when we get into the Gojo past arc, and it was like, yeah, his birth shifted the scales of power in the world. Yeah. I was like, whoa, okay. So this guy's the protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, Gojo is definitely like very, very influential in his existence, right? That statement is pretty powerful. I always love seeing that when I do like going through Shibuya again and just seeing stuff like, you know, his birth create, and like I was like, wow, that's a pretty impactful character, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, he was 7 years old, and people saw him, and they were like, yeah, I'm retiring. This is over. I'm out of the game. I don't know what camp you're in, but there's this like subsect of Jujutsu Kaisen fans that have the Gojo is dying when they get him out of the box camp, where it's that, you know how time doesn't pass inside of the box?
Yeah.
So it goes like, because Gojo is in there for, it could be, you know, 4 seconds or 400 years, like from his perspective, right? He could just starve to death. But when they eventually get him out of prison realm, he'll just be like a skeleton, and that'll be like the big shock. Like, Gojo's dead now. I personally don't like that, because like, I could understand it from like a see how subverted your expectations are. Ooh, aren't you blown away by this?
That just being shock value for the sake of shock value. I don't think that has much, like, here's the thing. I also think it's supported by the series that like Gojo won't die, because I'm pretty sure Kenjaku mentions like that the only way you can add, like, it's only, so he mentions that there's only one person per prison realm, right? So that's important. And then Mahito's like, can we put another person in there? He's like, no, not unless the person inside takes their own life. So to me, that implies that the only way to leave is to intentionally like get rid of yourself, what I don't think Gojo would do, since he seemed to have a lot of faith that like everybody would come to get him.
All right, so yeah, I like Gojo. Is it like that? Yeah. I know it's an awful segue.
But next we got Kamo, right?
Yep. So
I think he's fine or okay.
I think he's good, because it seems a little you know what? No, I'm gonna put him in okay. You're right, because he didn't get quite as much character development as Mekamaru and Mai. Like he got a decent amount, way more than like Suki here. Is that her? Oh my god, I literally just said her name like 10 minutes ago. This is gonna be like the most bland take ever in Jujutsu Kaisen, but I don't understand how the hell the Kamo clan is considered one of the 3 great clans when their inherited technique is just blood. Like, what is that, dude? You have, like, this is the proper hierarchy. You have the Limitless and 6 Eyes from the Gojo clan, and then you have the so many. You have options from the Zen'in Clan, including being like a roided out like superhuman, as like, and that's considered like the weakest, right? And then you have like blood manipulation. Like, how did that like this is what I mean, dude. Jujutsu sorcerers are like so weak.
I mean, I think blood manipulation. I mean, I think Choso kind of shows how strong blood manipulation can be.
But
considering
here's my argument against that, right? When Naoya and Yuta were there, he got so clapped. It wasn't even funny. Yuta didn't even look at him when he was punching him in the face.
Yeah, but Yuta's so strong that when he pops up, people mistake him for Gojo. Like, I wouldn't say Yuta's like the benchmark because Yuji just like got a whiff of his cursed energy and was like, oh my god, it's Gojo. No, it's something even creepier. And then Yuta has the audacity to say during their fight, yeah, I got more cursed energy than Gojo. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess, right? Gojo can use his for longer because he uses like such a small amount because of the 6 eyes or whatever. But to say that like someone that has more cursed energy than Gojo is a benchmark, I think is strange, right? Choso even says before they really get into it, like Yuta's like the type like Gojo where if you fight him, you're sure to die. And Yuta kind of confirms that when he scraps with Yuji, wins, scraps with Choso, wins. But Choso does beat Alia, right? Like a blood manipulator.
Yeah,
beats
but that was
one of the Zen'in Clan techniques.
But that was on a super strict technicality because it was because his blood got in there and it was non-human. So like that's what got him.
That's true.
So it's not like Kamo could do it, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. I think it depends on, I guess.
Like
I was more arguing for the sake of potential, but yeah, I do think that they would probably be the weakest. Although I don't know if they're going to be explored as we go throughout the series.
I wonder if you count the entire Kamo clan as like descendants of Kenjaku. Because,
I don't know.
Because obviously he was the original Noritoshi Kamo, and then like presumably he helped create birth whatever Choso.
Yeah.
And Yuji or whatever. So does that mean technically Kamo is related to Yuji in some weird way?
Possibly, although and it gets a little weird into like, or is whoever Kenjaku takes over, like does that mean they're descendants of him or they're descendants of the body he's taking over? Which I don't know. Gets a little dicey, but they do have some relation in the sense that like Kenjaku did play a hand in kind of both of like their bloodlines, if you will.
All right, I forgot this guy's name because I hate him so much.
I think is it Haruta? Hold on, let me make sure. I think it's Haruta.
Either way,
Jujutsu.
I put him strictly.
Yeah, I think Ew.
Yeah, no, like I can't stand this guy. For like the sword is goofy. It looks like a toy. It punched. I don't even understand how that even makes him dangerous. How he's able to hurt anybody with that toy is nothing short of just good luck on his part. And speaking of good luck, the thing with the miracles was revealed 2 panels before his death.
I like that. Don't give him that much time. We don't need it. He don't need it.
Yeah, dude. I like screw him. All right, next we have Sukuna, and this is a water moment right here. Okay.
I have Sukuna in great at least.
I have him in GOAT.
Go. Interesting. So wait, you put him above like Yuji and Nobara and Mahito? That's interesting.
Yes.
That's interesting. Because I wouldn't have him above Yuji or Nobara yet.
Because everything about Sukuna has been a massive twist. And here is what I mean. With villains like Sukuna, you know that thing where like the main character is possessed by some ancient entity who is like super powerful? That's
like the inner demon.
Okay. So the inner demon thing, right? It's usually the same fucking thing every time. It's kid gets possessed, gets power. Oh wait, what's this? The demon is misunderstood. He actually loves the main protagonist, and they become best friends.
Yeah.
Even Black Clover just did that with Asta's inner demon or inner devil, whatever. So what I love about Sukuna, like wholeheartedly love, is that despite him essentially living inside of Yuji's body and then and his mortality being tied to Yuji's, he hates Yuji so much. He hates him like with a passion. He does everything he can to spite him, to belittle him, and to antagonize him. And he does not care that he's essentially like flipping off his landlord.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think he's great. I think he's like from the cool aspect, he's one of the coolest characters in the series, undeniably so. but I think he's missing sort of that. Like he has some. I don't like when people just say like, oh, he's just cool. Like there's definitely some like depth to him. But I don't think he's like better as an antagonist yet than Mahito. I don't think he's as good as a character as Gojo yet. He hasn't had that sort of like. I don't think he's had his flashback, if you will. I don't think he's had his moment where it's like, wow, this character is great now, right? I think he's well. Let me rephrase. He's great, but I don't think he's had that like depth to him yet, right? And that's fine, but I do think that's incoming.
So
I don't know.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think that he actually has a lot of layers to him, but a lot of it is like in what's not said. So, for example, in his fight with Jogo, he pulls out the flames, right? But he doesn't say what the technique is, and it tells you like a lot about him in just those couple panels. It tells you that at least this is from my reading of it, that he doesn't want to share the technique with Jogo, not because it's like a secret, but because if he would, it would make the technique stronger, and on the off chance that Jogo would have survived the initial attack, it would have been a definite, like, he would have died had Sukuna actually told him what the technique was. And I think, like, he wanted to prolong it. So you know that Sukuna's intentionally and calculatingly sadistic. Second, a lot of what Sukuna does is not on script. And what I mean by that is even the disaster curse spirits, you know, Mahito, Hanami, and them, when they like meet Sukuna, they keep offering supervillain shit, like in any other anime that like would work. Like, hey man, this is your chance, like, to take over the world. We're freeing you. And Sukuna's like, nah, I'm good. And he's like,
yeah, I got my own plan. I got my own thing going on.
Yeah, even Gojo, like, I remember Akutami, in the interview, Akutami said, Gojo got almost everything right about Sukuna, except he worked under the assumption that Sukuna, after being revived in Yuji, would instantly try to regain all of his power. And Sukuna has made, like, no effort to do that. He is, like, he's not even taking his time, he's just chilling. And then whatever he needs Megumi for seems to have been not pre-calculated. He literally saw Megumi like do his thing, and then he made plans. So up until then, he was just vibing.
Yeah.
And I like that about Sukuna, in that he's not like some mustache twirly villain. It all boils down to he does things based on his own whim in the purest way.
Yeah. I think he's like I mean, I really like, one thing I found interesting is the like the obviously the quote that everybody, like the Buddhist quote that everybody associates Gojo with, like in the heavens and the earth I alone and Ronin one, right? Yeah. Sukuna had that quote first, and I really like that.
No, but
like it's a little bit different.
That wasn't the narration. That was Nanami.
Yeah. That's what it was, right? He was like, he's the honored one. He's like, he only cares about like his whims and stuff like that, or without any. I don't like the way the Viz did it, I think, but I feel like it was like throughout heaven and earth, he alone is the honored one, only his displeasure and pleasure exists. And I was like, that was dope. That was fire. Yeah,
but it's Nanami saying that, so he doesn't, I don't know, my personal takeaway is that something happened to Gojo that gave him like a sense of clarity and omniscience, in that he kind of looked at the world from, you know, his new status of like a fully realized Six Eyes user, and realized like he really was like the guy. Like he was like, yeah, I am just playing a completely different sport to everybody else. But for Sukuna, even he acknowledges that the level Gojo is on is the one that Gojo is solely on. Like, it's just him up there. Where he was talking to Jogo, he was like, to reach the heights of Satoru Gojo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I think, like, have you seen this Reddit thread? And I know we keep like doing this, but I just like talking about the show. Have you seen this Reddit thread where they were talking about was that Gojo is actually a pretty weak sorcerer, and the reasoning for this was because, you know how Gojo said in the golden age of Jujutsu nobody was able to stand against Sukuna?
Yeah.
So the implication is that everybody was at least like way stronger than they are right now, and generally I kind of believe that, because like I said, it seems to me that modern sorcerers are like a little too weak. Regardless, Sukuna reigned supreme at that time where everybody was like way stronger. So the assumption is that because Gojo isn't operating in that world, he's only the strongest by like default, but he would actually be on like a normal level in the golden age. And I completely wholly disagree with that. I just want to know your take.
I don't think he'd be average. However, I do think that there's a little bit more weight to being the strongest in a stronger era than being the strongest in like a somewhat like neutered era. Like, so The reason I say that, right, is because if you look at like Kenjaku, and Kenjaku, because Kenjaku's whole thing is he wants to create chaos that can lead to growth and like explosive change and development that even he can't create himself, right? That's why he's like, I have to let the cooling games, basically I have to make it so even I can't control it, so the potential of it can exceed me, right? That's the point. It's like explosive chaos, randomness kind of creates forceful growth, the same way like it did with Gojo, the same way it does with almost every Jujutsu sorcerer, right? And the way he goes about this is not by like releasing Gojo, right? He's like, I'm gonna bring back the Heian period, right? The period of the strongest characters, the period with like Sukuna, and I think the Cooling Games is gonna bring this to light, right? Obviously we have the Angel being like able to erase. We haven't really seen her much, but we just know she can erase curse techniques, right? We have I think Hashimoto, which we can talk about later, looks very, very strong. He's looking for Sukuna, so I already know he's gonna be probably, yeah. I already know he's going to be extreme. Like, I'm going to say this. If you're looking for Sukuna, you're strong. That's all I got to say. And I feel like
I don't know.
A lot of these characters,
I think if you're looking for Sukuna, you're an idiot. But
I mean, the thing is, right? It can be one or the other, honestly. But I feel like he was supposedly existed 400 years before. He should have seen Sukuna, right?
No.
He should have at least known. No, not seen him, but like known the legend of him, like everybody else. But honestly, I don't know. I'm feeling that I feel that this character is going to be built up to be very strong. Maybe not necessarily 20 finger Sukuna level because he's been built up for the entire series. But I don't know. I don't think like weak people go out and like desiring to face against the King of Curses.
Okay, but for example, you see this guy, the coat rack guy?
Yeah.
Like he obviously sought Gojo, and we don't think he was like strong because of it. We think this guy's an idiot.
Well, there's two sides to that. Jogo sought out Gojo too, and Jogo's extremely strong. So like,
so you think it's
it kind?
So you think?
I think it's more of
he or she. I honestly thought it was a girl. I don't know why, but I'm gonna say they. So I thought they were gonna be like the next Jogo, but for Sukuna.
It's possible. I mean, honestly, I hope it's like, I don't know. It depends though, because like if there's someone like even remotely near Sukuna, I'm very concerned for how our characters are going to be doing in the Cooling Games, to be honest. But I don't know. I feel like this character is definitely not portrayed to be like Coat Rack Guy. Coat Rack Guy wasn't even able to really scrap against Gakuganji. Like they were kind of like even. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But
Sorry, it just makes me wonder how weak Yaga was for Gakuganji to like clap him as well as he did. Yeah. Any closing thoughts on Sukuna?
He's dope. He's cool.
Yeah.
That's about it.
All right, I agree. I'm gonna put her in fine. She's, to be honest with you, I don't remember her name. I wanted to put her in who. She was technically she had more appearances than this guy, so it's a technicality.
Yeah. That's cool. That's fine with me. Right, moving on to Mei Mei. I gotta put her in ill because what we saw, bro. I'm gonna be honest.
What?
Do you remember where she was with Ui or whatever?
Yeah, like that's her little brother.
Yeah, that was mad weird. I'm gonna say that was mad weird. What? That's my opinion on it.
Mei Mei's like great. Are you kidding me?
She's cool until we see where she like dips out of Shibuya, and then she's like, I don't know. She's weird. She's strange. I'm gonna say that.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember where, like, because it's like during everything popping off, and then she's like, I don't know. She's definitely strange to me.
Yeah, but isn't that a good thing? Like, she has some very interesting motivations, and like as a sorcerer, if her motivation is literally I want to like get as much money as I can, but in a way that seems a little, I'm gonna be straight with you. It feels almost like a fetish than it does like financially responsible.
Oh, no. Yeah, I agree about that. That part's not the weird part. It's her relationship with Ui that throws me off and that I'm weirded out by.
Okay, but I'll concede that the thing with the bed is like wild. That's very strange. But aside from that, I can see why she keeps him around, because this guy, like, he's kind of a prodigy, and that he can like really give her a boost if like when they're in fights. Like she did, what was that special grade or grade 1 that they fought where like it was like an anti-domain technique, right? That's why she kept him around. Yeah, and like Bird Strike is cool. And you know, I just like her. I like her vibe. And
her
yes,
abilities are cool. Her abilities are cool, but that one chapter just really turned me off to her character. To be honest, I was just like, I'm not really a fan. Like it's cool. Bird Strike is all right to me. It's like a fine technique.
also,
I think the lore of nobody surviving it but Gojo is cool, but like
also, I think she's objectively interesting because she got like a pretty shit technique and then trained like hell to work without it, and then went back and maxed out like that 20% of wiggle room that sorcerers are allotted when they're born. And she has literally been the only character in the series, as far as I've seen, to like reach their absolute full potential. And I think that's something to be admired.
You don't think like someone like Gojo did that, like in his like encounters and things like that?
I don't think Gojo has a cap on his potential, to be honest with you. I just think he picked a stopping point.
Yeah, maybe. I guess we'll have to see as time goes on. But I don't really care what we put Mei Mei. I'm just not a fan of her personally.
Alright, I'm gonna put her in okay as like our middle ground. Alright, next we have Kirara.
Yeah, Kirara, she's cool. I mean, I'd say she's fine. She doesn't really have much screen time though.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what her and Hakari's like backstory is, because I'm curious what her role was during Hakari's exodus from Jujutsu Tech, because at some point she had to have like met up with him or been a classmate and been like expelled with him. Yeah, I think she's one of those characters that I think has a lot of potential as the series progresses. So like Yuki, I got my eye on her.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so for Nanami, I'm gonna put him in elite.
That's cool. I agree. Nanami's great.
Yeah.
Good character.
Okay, Maki. Now you'll notice I put anime Maki and manga Maki because I think they're actually different characters. That's
Do you rate them differently?
Yes, I do. Here's my hot take, right? I think anime Maki is in good, and I think manga Maki is elite.
I agree with both of those, so we're good.
All right.
I think her character becomes even better if you read Volume 0. So, or when you watch it, I guess.
Yeah. So next we have Hakari. I actually like Hakari so far. I enjoy what I've seen of him so far. I would kind of have appreciated an explanation for what the hell the sliding door shit was.
I think we're gonna get it as time goes on. But I do get what you mean. I think Hakari, I personally put him in okay because what he's shown is cool. I like the whole like fever thing. I feel like it's gonna play into his technique and kind of like the way he views the world. And I like the dynamic he currently has with Yuji. Like Yuji before Shibuya probably would have fit Hakari's version of fever, I think. Now post Shibuya with Yuji kind of being, I guess, not cold, but it's just different, right? He kind of doesn't have the ideology that Hakari finds the best, and I'd like to see that expanded upon as time goes on.
So do you think he's kind of taking over the symbolic torch from Mahito vis-a-vis like Yuji's future character development?
I don't know, honestly. I honestly don't know. Yuji is one of the characters that when it comes to like the roadmap for them, Akutami has me completely like, I don't know where Yuji's gonna go, right? I honestly don't know where Yuji's next development will go. With other characters, I can kind of speculate, oh, this is where their development is, or at least this is the general direction they're gonna go. With Yuji, I have no idea. Like Akutami has me like, if he's intentionally trying to make Yuji's like direction vague, he's got me because I have no idea where it's gonna go from that standpoint. So whether or not Hakari is going to function to be more of like a mentor figure, whatever, I'm just here for the ride for Yuji. I really don't know where he's going.
I second all of that, so I'm going to put him in good. I want to see more of him, and it looks like, this isn't really a spoiler, but like the chapter from yesterday is like the official start of the Culling Games.
Okay,
and
that's cool.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see what he does in the arc. Okay, next is Nabito. Okay, this is gonna seem like a bit high, but I think he's actually okay. His technique is the funniest one in the series to me by far, because it's so needlessly complicated when the net result is super speed. Like it's just like super speed. And he's like, okay, so you know how there are 24 frames in a second of animation? And then he goes on this long spiel, and then when he's done, you just go, dude, you're just running fast.
Yeah. I like, it's a very small interaction, but I like the fact that like him and Dagon are talking. Dagon's trying to explain that like, you know, my name isn't Curse Spirit, right? Dagon keeps talking, and Nobito just kind of like not caring, just keeps talking over him, like explaining his technique. I'm just like, I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why. Like, I still have to like kind of sort that little moment out, but I feel like that's so that's such like a jujutsu sorcerer thing to do, like not be able to understand cursed spirits and their kind of like plight, I guess.
Yeah, or and this guy's just really passionate about animation and like sharing like animation techniques with even cursed spirits. He's like, dude, I know you have a name, but listen, I don't care. Do you know that a second of animation has 24 frames per second?
Yeah.
He's like a missionary. He just knocks on people's doors. He's like, man, have you heard the good word about animation? All right, next is Inumaki, right?
Let's see. Oh yeah, Inumaki. I'd say he's fine.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'd say he's fine because he's cool, he's dope, but he's nothing that I would be like, yeah, this is a great character. Honestly, like I want to see more from him, but like it's not like a burning passion like with Hakari or other characters where it's like it's like cool, I'll take it if you want to show us more, Akitame. If you don't, like I'm not upset at you really, but
yeah.
But yeah.
My beef with him is just that he has like the potential to have like one of the coolest techniques in the entire series, but he seems to be the only person in Jujutsu Kaisen who's actively like training like in a normal way of like, you know, showing up, practicing, then getting slightly better over a grueling amount of time, whereas most of the characters on this list so far just get like absolutely shreked and then they get like a fucking Zenkai boost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see Inumaki's like fully realize his technique. I'd love to just have him like say die and just kill somebody outright. Like that's like the dream scenario that I have for him. Next is Megumi.
I have him in GOAT tier. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be real. Me, he's my favorite character in the series.
Yeah, I put him in GOAT just because I actually like him the most out of the main trio. And I want to get into your reasons, but just mine are not as extravagant. I just think he's one of the more complex characters in the series with his moral judgment and how he goes about being a jujutsu sorcerer.
I agree.
Yeah, okay. So, why do you like?
So, I mean, I'd agree that's part of it. I think the sort of like, it's the morality of a person you wouldn't expect to be a good guy, quote unquote, right? He's like, Megumi's like pretty upfront about like, dude, I don't really care about being quote unquote right, like in this objective sense. It's like my morality is based on like who I deem to be fit of like, you know, judgment, right? He's like, I think one thing he says is like, I'll be my own karma system or something like that, something to that effect, right? Where it's like karma doesn't judge people properly, so I will type thing.
Yeah. And
I love the fact that like, whereas in like early Yuji is kind of like trying to be this altruistic, objectively good person, Megumi's like, dude, listen, the world is wrong all the time, right? I'm not going to risk my life or waste my life or like to save people not worth saving. But on top of that, I really like the continuous development because I don't think he's gone over yet. The idea of like winning without sacrificing himself, I think is really important. We've seen a little glimpse of it with domain expansion. Like after he learned that, he kind of thought back to Gojo and Sukuna's words. But I'm really hoping to see more of like Megumi kind of become more like Gojo and Sukuna in the sense where they're a lot more free and a lot more kind of creative with their abilities. We've seen that kind of with Megumi. We see that Megumi's starting to use shadows, like he's starting to use them to hide himself in there. He's been using them to hide weapons, all this stuff, right? I really am excited to see more of it. His technique is super cool. His demeanor's cool. I think honestly, it's really a really good all-around character. My favorite from the trio, and my personal favorite in general. So that's why I'd have them in GOAT.
Good shit. Just for reference, Ronin and I have both made videos about Megumi. I'll link them up there in the title card thing. Next is Ui. Yeah. I don't even... Fine.
I honestly want to put him in like I know who he is obviously, but like me, it's like you kind of served as like a tool for Mei Mei, not much more than that really.
I know, but on like at the same time, this guy died 3 pages after being introduced, and like the sum total of his time on Jujutsu Kaisen was that panel where Maki was holding his severed head after killing him off screen basically. So it almost seems
Fair
disrespectful to Ui because he won his fight.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put him in fine.
Okay, that's fair.
Our next is Todo. I'm just
Todo's elite, in my opinion.
Easily.
Todo elite or yeah.
Easily.
He's literally he's just great. Like you could get into the depth of him, but like honestly, I feel like every scene Todo's in is a fun scene, and that alone is just like, come on now. Like
yeah, no argument here. Next we have Dagon. I'm gonna put him in.
I'd say okay with Nabito personally. I have them like in a similar spot.
He easily did way more than anybody else in Fine, and
Yep.
he definitely had one of the more fun domains where it was literally just like a beach.
Yeah.
And he had one of the best fights in the entire series, so yeah, I think he deserves okay. Like obviously it's not his fault that Toji was resurrected and then entered a backdoor domain into his domain and then absolutely destroyed him, right?
Yeah, that was earned. Yeah.
Right, so so next is Kenjaku. I think
I'm like great personally.
Yeah, I think he's in great for now. As we as more chapters come out and the calling games start, I'm curious to see. Oh my god, my camera finally died. Nice.
Are we gonna like? Do you want to put a pause in it, or and then come back when you charge it or something?
No, it's fine. I kind of expected it to happen. Damn, it's like hot too. I'll just like do the rest with like voice. Anyway, right, Kenjaku.
Kenjaku, yeah.
So since the Cullen games are like have officially begun and they're like now the present danger, I personally can't wait to see more and learn more about Kenjaku's plans, motivations, and literally how the hell he did any of this, because it's such a detailed plan that spans over 1,000 years and required him to make so many binding vows with sorcerers throughout the millenniums just for this like one single moment where the net result is potentially humans get stronger. Like it's like playing 60 chess for a prize at like a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, I mean Kenjaku to me has that sort of like Aizen appeal, where it's just like he's just so like, yo, it's just so crazy that like you look back at Jujutsu Kaisen and you see the points where he's like planned it out, and I'm like, to me he's great off of that reveal, and I'm so excited to see like, because I expect kind of like goat stuff out of him, if I'm being honest. Like as we learn more about him, and he's just a great antagonist to me. He's gonna become even better as time goes on. I just feel like his potential is also one of the highest in the series as well. Yeah,
like he's barely been in the series, maybe like a handful of like strong appearances, and he's already like a great antagonist, right? When he eventually like sees his plan through or whatever happens with that, I definitely think it's gonna be like a step up for him. He might even potentially hit the GOAT tier.
Agreed.
All right, next we have Geto. So I'm gonna put Geto in okay, like for me personally, like, yeah, okay,
that's wild. Okay, great. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let me know.
So here's the thing. Geto, where you know how you said Kenjaku's kind of like Aizen? Geto is kind of like a bad version, like a worse version of Frieza, in that like his motivation essentially boils down to racism against like normal humans. But the only interesting thing that came out of it was really his conversation with Gojo, where he was like, it's kind of hypocritical of you to say that what I want is like so impossible, because if I had your power, I could do it. Right, like you can destroy everybody in Japan, and I think that's really it. His goal was so dumb, like there was no feasible way to achieve that. At least Frieza had the ability to destroy a planet on a whim, you know, from a cold start. Geto had nothing. He was like, to me, he just talked his shit.
Yeah, so I guess we can talk about that. So for one, I feel like there was one roadblock in Geto's plan. There was only one person who could stop Geto at that point, and that was, I mean, I guess Kenjaku was kind of in the background, but I guess not really counting him, as Geto didn't even know that was an opponent he was facing, is Gojo, right? The same way Frieza's like main like roadblock would be Goku in that sense, right? I mean, I feel like Geto did have a very viable way to do it. Like the special grade curses, like I'm pretty sure it said outside of Japan that the sorcerers are just like kind of fodder. And Geto was already a special grade, right? He was already best of the best outside of characters like Gojo and maybe Yuki. We don't really know how strong she would be in comparison, but outside of like maybe other special grade sorcerers, there was no person that could stop Geto's plan. And while it is like very, I guess you can boil it, you can oversimplify it to that. It's not like Geto did this out of this sense of like he hated like non-sorcerers because like for some random reason, right? Like out of some like inferior or superiority complex shown like over the span of like the entire star plasma vessel arc, right? That slowly but surely, I mean, he's kind of just acting like a sorcerer in the sense like Megumi would. Megumi doesn't come to this conclusion, right? But Geto is willing to do whatever he has to in order to create a world where he and his allies and people that he cares about, mainly being sorcerers, could live freely, right? And live without the curse of cursed spirits, if you will, right? The only way to do that is to either erase cursed energy, like in the way that Yuki could, and he didn't know how to do that, or get rid of everybody that can't control their cursed energy. And for Geto, somebody who saw vanity and kept seeing these like non-jujutsu sorcerers, just the weaklings, if you will, keep requiring his protection, keep having his friends killed, his family killed, all these things, and then seeing humans like sort of at the end of the flashback like torturing these little kids, it just snapped for him. He's like, he couldn't accept the fact that as a jujutsu sorcerer, as someone who was strong, it was burdened with to continuously protect all these weak people who were never respectful, who were never grateful, and just were disgusting creatures, right? And honestly, obviously, I would consider it evil or consider it bad to erase like this whole demographic of people. It is, right? But I would say that it's much more understandable when you look at it from like how he broke down as a character. And even Gojo considered something like that right after his fight with Toji, right? Gojo wasn't exempt from that. Gojo was like, should I just kill them all right now? Right? He's like, I wouldn't feel anything if I did. But Geto was the one who stopped him, and only until later, after more and more like pushing and breaking, was Geto finally kind of like, I can't handle this anymore. To me, that puts him in great. And I feel like his character is stopped considering everything with Kenjaku, but I guess time will tell as we keep going through the series.
Counterpoint. It's kind of a tragic tale if you think about it, because in the end he got nothing except his body hijacked. Like, Geto is dead, right? And the culmination of all of his inner turmoil, his work, everything he's ever put effort to, was literally just like done to him off page. Gojo killing him, Kenjaku hijacking him, and by the way, he didn't just hijack his body. He hijacked the cult he built around him, the plan he made in some like a superficial sense. He masked like his plan as Geto's plan. I think that Kenjaku is like the more adult version of Geto, where Geto is like a child throwing a temper tantrum. Geto is like a calm, collected adult going about his business. And
that's an interesting way to look at it. Personally, I feel like Kenjaku, from like an ideological standpoint, is much less developed than Geto is. We don't know why Kenjaku thinks the way that he does versus Geto. We've gotten to see the lead up to this thought process, but
so yeah. Well, I'll since you said great and I said okay, naturally the middle ground is just put him in good.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Next we have Yuta, and from what I've seen of him, because I haven't read Zero, I actually really like him. Something about this guy's vibe is just like hitting my stride. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say as someone who's seen Volume 0, he's great. I really like him. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say because I don't want to spoil you in anything, but like he's just a really, really well handled character. I feel in that very short amount of time he's there. I feel like he does his job pretty perfectly.
Yeah. I'm gonna put him in great because something tells me that he's also still a work in progress, like with Kenjaku, and that Yuta is further ahead than like say Yuji or Megumi. And what I mean by that is in terms of like anime protagonist progression and you know, slash like the rival, where after like 3 or 4 fights of like a major caliber, they evolve like drastically, right? Especially you can see that more with Megumi because his curse technique has more of a visual flair. But by the end of like season 1, for example, Megumi could pull off like a terrible domain expansion, but it was more than like Nanami could ever do. And I think for Yuta, he's just a year ahead in his trials and tribulations than Yuji and Megumi, so that's why he seems stronger. But from an outside perspective, he's actually still in training.
I mean, that's fair. I think that makes sense.
All right, next we have like the first special grade cursed womb.
Who, whichever one. It doesn't have a character really.
Yeah. it was fun to watch it the first time. You don't know, because both times that this one was used, it was pretty fun because the outcome was that that interaction with Sukuna. Don't want to call it a fight. And then the second one was Megumi's domain expansion, which was just another like major thing. Yeah. So I'm gonna put him in fine just because like when it shows up, you know, things happen.
Sure. Okay.
Next is Momo.
Momo is fine, I guess. Yeah.
She's alright.
Yeah.
Next is Principal Gakuganji. Now, okay, I'm torn between
personally.
Yeah, I'm torn between and okay. Because as an antagonist, I hate him, right? So like that's good, like I'm supposed to. But on the other hand, this guy is so frustrating because he doesn't understand, like he doesn't carry himself with the knowledge that like Gojo can like swat him like a fly anytime he wants. Like he doesn't have that attitude towards Gojo, and it's really annoying because he keeps calling him like insolent brat or whatever, and he keeps like getting on that case as if like what are you gonna do, old man? Like please step up, like do something. I want to see you do something. And his technique when we got it teased with Coat Rack guy was pretty interesting. Not what I thought it was gonna be for him, but the guy has the audacity, because he's the head of the conservatives. He has the audacity to hate people like Kirara for like improper
new
curse
age
techniques.
Yeah,
when he's literally holding a fucking electric guitar. Like what is like, yeah, I'm gonna put him in ew. I think I just hate him.
Yeah.
And also he killed Yaga. Yaga, so fuck him.
Yeah, Principal Yaga is dope. He's fun.
I'm gonna put him in okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool. And I forgot, this is Nanami's like underling. I can't remember his name. Ino, right?
Ino, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Ino is, I mean, I was gonna say his only like notable fight is getting washed by Toji, but like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna put him in fine. He's an okay guy. Yeah. Next we have Ieri.
Yeah. She doesn't have much of a character, if I'm being honest, from what I've seen. Like she's like,
just gonna put her in fine.
Yeah. Yuji's one friend who, I guess.
Yeah. Here's the other one. I'll just put them both in. Should I even put them in who?
Just who's fine. Just like. They show up for like one episode and really,
All right, Urame, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Cool ice powers.
Yeah.
She seems to be a lackey of Sukuna's. I think the implication is that she's going to be participating in the Culling Games because, like, why wouldn't she? She's not working for Kenjaku, but like at the same time she is. Like while Sukuna's MIA.
Yeah.
And like he's participating in the Culling Games, and technically so is Sukuna if you go by like Yuji participating. So, you know, her and Sukuna's future plans are ambiguous. They're interesting. I'm gonna put her in fine for now. I want to see more of her. You got any strong thoughts about Urame?
Not really. She's cool. I think the ice powers, like you said, is a cool ability. Her relationship with Sukuna is interesting, but like there's not much to go on for her character. So
next we have Urahime, I think is her name.
Hold on. It can't remember it. It's not. It's Urahime. That's what it is. I'd say she's just in the fine camp as well. I think she's like, her dynamic with Gojo is always fun to see, but like it's not like anything special. Just kind of like cool, but not really particularly anything I like care about for the character.
Yeah, I'm curious what her curse technique is, because I read somewhere that it had something to do with sonics, like a
sound-based technique.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about her technique. I haven't really seen much speculation on it because of how like minor her character is. But I think seeing her technique would be pretty cool later down the line.
Next, we have the old lady that resurrected Toji. I'm gonna put her in ill. Didn't like her.
Yeah. Osaka, I feel like is in a pretty similar camp. I mean, he has a dope fight, I think, but it's more dope because Yuji and Megumi are there and not because Awasaka, in my opinion.
But he had like a very fun curse technique that I've literally never seen before. Like, obviously, if you think about it too much, it's ridiculous because if there's a minimum, there has to be a maximum, and like most sorcerers.
That's why someone like Gojo could beat him because
but I think it's
like Gojo could just output the maximum amount of energy needed to take him out.
I know, but it's disrespectful to Gojo to like give this guy that limit. I think like a really strong punch from like Yuta or like Black Flash would just annihilate him.
That's very possible. We just don't know what the upper limit is. We've just seen that like, oh, he can have like Yuji's regular punches, like Megumi's attacks. But yeah, I'm not saying Gojo is the limit. I'm just saying Megumi's like kind of rationale is like, oh, Gojo can beat him. It can't be complete inverse, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna put him
like
in
damage nullification.
Ew. Because I don't like him. If I remember his crimes, they were like really bad.
Oh yeah, they were extremely heinous.
Yeah.
Very, very bad crimes.
Next we have Noya.
I like Naoya personally.
So
like now his actions are obviously reprehensible, but like he's a fun character to see on screen, and I'm gonna stick by that.
Me too. Especially because he has the same power as his dad, but he's not as weird about explaining it.
I think there's something interesting about having like such an overtly just horrible person be an antagonist, and then having them be kind of beat up. I think it's pretty cathartic.
I know, but it really speaks to the Zen'in Clan's dynamics that he was bold enough to like disrespect both of his uncles in a way that like he could back it up. He seemed to have dodged this guy's attacks like with little difficulty.
Yeah.
So it's not like.
And he did better against Maki than any of them did.
Right? Isn't that wild? The Zen'in Clan, like if it wasn't for Toji and Megumi, like those two abilities, the 10 Shadows and the Heavenly Restriction, they would be like weaker than the Kamo clan.
Yeah.
So
I'd say good, honestly. Good or okay.
Do you think he's actually dead?
Okay, so I think he died, but I think he's going to come back as a vengeful cursed spirit. That's what I think is going to happen. Because the reason is because we know sorcerers can turn into cursed spirits if they aren't killed by like cursed energy. And considering Maki's mom is never portrayed to be like a sorcerer by any means, and she just stabs him in the back with a normal knife, I think he died without being killed by cursed energy, and he's going to come back as a vengeful like spirit, maybe even like special grade.
You know what? I like that. I kind of hope he does. I don't know why he couldn't use his cursed energy at the end there. Did he just run
because
out?
he was so damaged. He was just beat to a pulp, and like he couldn't muster any up.
I am curious about how like why he stands Toji. Like that wasn't really explored.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about this, but like he has brothers. Like he said he had like 3 brothers that like carry swords with him. I wonder if they'll show up.
Pretty sure Maki got rid of everybody else left. Like I'm pretty sure.
But they weren't. They weren't on site.
They weren't on site. But there's a statement at the end of the chapter where she's like, Maki then went on to kill the like any Zen'in Clan members that weren't there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Zen'in Clan is really like dead.
Yeah.
Okay. So Junpei.
I like Junpei, honestly. I think he's okay.
He was fine.
I
just want to know if I was alone in this. Okay, you're American, right?
Yeah. I am.
Yeah. So did the school shooting allegory strike you a little weird too?
Not particularly. Like you mean with like kind of like Junpei being bullied in that sense and coming back and getting revenge. I do think it's weird that it was portrayed in that like I do think it's weird that it was portrayed Junpei as like this like sole victim. Because like a lot of times that's not really the case.
Also, it was like so bad.
But
like that bullying was like criminal, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But I think the thing is, I think that rather than being like allegorical to like the United States, I do think it's more likely that like, because I'm pretty sure, I think I read this somewhere that like Japan's like kind of like the suicide rates there are extremely high, in part because of bullying and things like that. So I think it's more likely that Akutame was like referencing those rather than kind of speaking about American stuff, especially when you consider that like a lot of the stuff he covers in his series is specific to like certain things about Japan. Like its really high crime rate is something that one of the newer characters kind of deals with.
I get that, but at the same time, he still went to the school, knocked out all the students with like a weapon, went to his bully and like specifically targeted him. It's like hard not to draw parallels, you know?
Yeah.
So here's Junpei's mom. I'm gonna put her in Who because she's not relevant enough.
Yeah,
she wasn't a good or bad mom either way. She was just like fine.
Yeah.
Coat rack guy, ew. I just thought he was obnoxious.
Yeah. Umuki is fine. For me personally, I like her. I like how she motivated Megumi, but she hasn't done much yet.
So here's what I wanted to ask, right? So Kenjaku made her one of the vessels. Like that's what the curse was. From my reading, I want to see if I got this wrong. Was she a vessel? Like was she like programmed to be a vessel of a different sorcerer from like the old times, or was she just like given an upgrade?
So,
like was her brain adjusted for sorcery like Junpei's was?
I think her brain was adjusted for sorcery. If she was supposed to become a vessel for somebody else, it hasn't been stated yet. I'm pretty sure.
But isn't that what
I'm pretty sure her brain was.
Isn't that what all the Isn't that what all the participants in the calling games are though? Like I keep forgetting her name or his name.
Let's see.
Their name.
I'm trying to think. Hold on. I don't know. Yeah. So it just says that like the two sorcerers that are like the two types of sorcerers or non-sorcerers. It shows like Yuji when it's talking about like ingesting cursed objects, but I don't think that like Samuki is ever shown to have ingested a cursed object. So I think it's fair to assume, for at least for the time being, that her brain was adjusted for sorcery. But it's kind of up in the air, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, me either. We'll just put a pin in that. I'm curious what her participation in the calling games will look like. Because right now, the plan is just to try to get her out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if doing so erases all the work Kenjaku did to her biologically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That'll be interesting.
So here's Takada. She's the idol that Todo was obsessed with.
Who, in my opinion.
The lawyer guy.
Hiromi was... Yeah, he honestly had a really, really great introduction chapter, in my opinion.
Yeah, like, it was like 20, 25 pages of like pure, like, whoa, I got this guy down,
yeah.
You know?
Honestly, I personally say okay just off of that, like, because I am super intrigued about seeing more of him.
Yeah,
as time goes on. So
when he was teased at the end of the previous chapter, I thought he was another vessel.
Yeah.
But now it doesn't look like that's the case. The case.
Yeah.
Then we
Hashimoto.
Yeah.
Is I say like I'd honestly say okay as well. Not because their introduction chapter was as great. I just really like their lightning. I'm assuming they have a lightning curse technique based on the few things that we saw, like the lightning sparking through their hair, kind of like a taser or whatever. This one's a little bit more biased than anything else. I just really am interested in seeing this character. They're just intriguing me by like wanting to look for Sukuna. I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Man, I hope that when they do find Sukuna, it's Sukuna. You're like, we finally meet at last, and Sukuna's like, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I was gonna put them in fine just because, unlike
that's cool.
Unlike him. Keep forgetting their names. Fuck, I'm a bad Jujutsu Kaisen fans.
Yeah.
They haven't had an entire chapter dedicated to them yet. Okay, so next is Riko. She was fine. It sucks that she went out the way she did.
I liked her.
Yeah. Her maid guard. She did her job.
I don't remember her name.
No, she didn't do her job. She tried to do her job.
Yeah, she attempted. She was in more chapters than most of the other people in Who, but like her impact was pretty minimal. I honestly like Riko a lot more than I like her, so I put her in Who just because of that.
Next we have Chozo. I'm gonna put him in.
I say great.
Yeah, me too. Like, I really like Chozo. I like his arc, his relationship with his brothers, and he has the more fun version of Kamo's technique.
He just can use it more versatile, like he just in many more ways, and I like that a lot.
Me too. I also through him and Todo, I want to see if the brother no jutsu theory is correct. I lost my shit. I read that on a comment thread somewhere as like the description of like the theory that Yuji's secret ability is to implant false memories. Dude, I just want it to be called brother no jutsu.
I saw that, but I'm pretty sure I'd have to pull that up honestly, because I'm pretty sure Akutami did said that these two things were completely unrelated. Okay, so first of all, the reason Choso is obviously Yuji's brother is because they literally have a blood connection. He can sense that. Todo, I honestly don't know why, and that I guess that'll be something interesting to see.
Yeah, but I don't like to take Akutami's word at face value if the interview is like over a year like apart, because the last interview he did was I think in February of 2020, like the big one where he was like in the Mekamaru costume. And one of the things he said that caught my eye was that he wasn't sure because they were talking about Hakari. He wasn't sure if he wanted to add another third year or not, and then he eventually added Kirara, right? So in that year, he obviously made a decision to add an entirely new character. So I don't think, and he also I don't think was planning to take a month-long hiatus. Plans change, people change, and I'm skeptical. Is all I'm gonna say.
Fair enough.
All right, lastly,
and finally,
Toji. Now for me, I think he's probably my favorite character aside from Gojo. I would put him strictly in Goat. Yeah, dude.
That's fair.
Aside from Gojo,
impact, coolness, he's crazy.
Dude, aside from Gojo, no other character has had the singular amount of influence on the story as him. Because like without his direct action, Kenjaku would have just been waiting another 1,000 years.
Yep. A lot of what would happen in Jujutsu Kaisen wouldn't be the case without Toji and everything that he did. So that's pretty insane.
Yeah. So yeah. We finally finished the list. Now, obviously, there were some characters that just didn't make it on. They were either too irrelevant, even for the Who section, or they were just random monsters, or they are from Jujutsu Kaisen 0, in which case that's intentional on my part because I haven't read or watched that yet. I'm saving my Jujutsu Kaisen 0 experience for the movie. But yeah, dude, what do you think of the list? Got any disagreements? Anybody you want to shift around?
I think it's pretty good, honestly. I agree with it for the most part. I think we did a pretty good job on the list. Gave our opinions. These things can shift a lot depending on like stuff we see later on. But I think for like as of right now, it's a pretty solid list. So yeah. Appreciate you inviting me on here, man.
Dude, thanks for coming. This was really fun. I'd love to do it again sometime. All right. Thanks for coming, Ronin. I'll leave links to his channel up there and in the description. Like, comment, and subscribe by. I'm trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by Halloween, so I can start doing Hunter x Hunter arc reviews. Links to all my videos here, and the full Jujutsu Kaisen playlist is right up here.